and welcome to another month of our alumni training program. You might recognize this gal because she is not only in our meetings, she has actually recently hosted one of our meetings for us. So this is Chris Carr, and we're going to talk about all things voiceover. She's also the voiceover instructor for E.E.B Studios. And so while you've gotten to know her a bit in the AA meetings, you probably don't really know a whole lot about what she really does. So I'm super excited. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your time. This is great.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yay. Okay, so just first and foremost, let us just kind of get to know you. Where are you from? How did you end up in LA? How did you even get into acting? And then we'll go down the voiceover road.
Awesome. Well, I always wanted to be an actor, but I kind of went the more practical route at the time, right? There's sirens. I had gone to school for communications, ultimately. I had just made this weird deal with myself. If I only got into so many conservatories, I wasn't going to be an actor. I didn't get into the right number, right? Where it was like, if I don't get into 13, I'm not going to do it. And I got into like 8 and was like, I can't be an actor. So I went to school for communications. I worked for the Houston Chronicle, and then I got laid off. And I was just so sad and really bummed out and drowning my sorrows with my coworkers in Beer Paredes, which happens to be like on the basement level of the Alley Theater in Houston, which is an amazing Tony Award winning theater. And they were holding auditions. And my friends were, just go do that. You love acting. Just go do that. I was like, I'm not going to do that. And I did. And I had nothing to lose because I just lost everything that day. And I got my first professional job because I didn't care. I like climbed on the director's table after I got notes to just like go for it. I went wild and it was just off to the races from there. I did a bunch of Houston theater. I got an agent through this show I did. And then I started doing commercials. Then I got into voiceover. And then ultimately I came out to LA just so I could be, a little fish in a bigger pond. It's a very big pond I found. Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like Lake Michigan. Okay. Oh, wow. I love that. I did not know that part of your story. So that's wonderful. That's amazing. Okay. So now, of course, there are all these different areas of acting: on camera, stage. Voiceover is so specific. Mm-hmm. How did you get into the voiceover world?
Oh, completely accidental. This is a great story and why you should just be kind to everyone you meet. So I'm working as a theater actor in Houston, right? So obviously I'm bartending, I'm waiting tables. And one day somebody has to just call in and they're just talking to me on the phone. Can you open up early? I'm just having the worst day. I'm having the worst day. I just want to come in there, have a glass of wine and just unwind. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't mind. I'm just setting up, but I'll let you in early. That's okay. And this lovely guy, Steven, comes in and we just talk for hours. And he's just talking to me about how rough his job's been lately and how it's just been super, super stressful. And I don't know all the ins and outs. And then finally, towards the end, when it's really busy in the restaurant, and I'm still just focused on this one guy, he lets me know that he's a voiceover director and he's been casting a new show. And that's what's been so stressful, is coordinating with the team in Japan and doing all this stuff. And finally, my bar back just interrupts and says, look, she's an actress and she's got work to do right now. So do you want to hire her or something? And because my friend was bold like that, I went, oh, yeah, I am an actress. He goes, yeah, come in and audition for me. That'd be fun. And I thought it'd be just this total fluke thing. He was just being nice to me. I went and auditioned. And after I just read for 5 minutes, he went, oh yeah, we're just going to put you in it. And he gave me like 5 characters to do in this Starship Troopers invasion straight to DVD movie. And then from there, I did about 13 different anime with Stephen Foster from Sentai Filmworks. And so he just kind of kicked everything off for me.
Because you were nice.
Yeah, he just liked me. He was like, yeah, you're sweet. So be nice to everyone. You never know. And it's so easy, you guys. It's so much easier to just go through life being nice to people. It takes so much effort to be nasty. And you never know who's going to give you an opportunity. I was just making a guy cocktails in Houston, Texas, of all places. I had no idea that we even produced anime in Texas. Apparently, we're a huge hub for it. With our lovely non-regional accents, give us all those Japanese and Korean words. We're going to nail them. But it's a huge thing there. And I had no idea. And thanks to just a couple of cocktails and words exchanged, I got a career.
Oh my God. That is the best story ever. Oh, I love these stories. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when it comes to, because so you teach now, so you've been how many voiceover, I mean, can you even count how many voiceover gigs that you've done at this point?
I mean, I've done close to 20 animated projects. I know I've been the voice of about 40 different brands at this point. Um, and then maybe 8 to 10 video games. Video games are something I've kind of broken into once I came to LA. And I've been super, super fortunate to consistently work for the same video game for like 5 years, which has been amazing. Same with commercial work too. They'll bring you back a lot, but it's been a lot of stuff. It's been good.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I also know that you do on camera and stand up and all this other stuff. Why would say an actor's, coming to you and they're like, well, why is this something? Isn't voiceover just basically, because it's not like you have to memorize anything. Can't you just, isn't it just kind of reading what's on the page? Like, why is it a skill? Like, did you take classes? Did you study? Like, how do you how do you become great at voiceover?
Oh, I always love this because when we still got to go places, right? Pre-pandemic, every time I was in an Uber, it was, what do you do? I'm a voice actor. Oh, people have told me I should do that because I've got a nice voice.
Yeah.
And it's always that kind of thing. I've always been told I should do that because I can imitate people. And that's great and fine. But it's kind of the distinction of what's a career and what's a party trick,
Mm,
right? You could do a Mickey Mouse impression probably, but can you go and improvise as Mickey Mouse and do all this dialogue and be Mickey Mouse in a bunch of things? That's going to take a different skill set. I always love this idea of voice acting not being acting or not being proper acting or something like that, when acting is right there in the name, you know? It's not voice reading. And all of us on camera people too, we've been in that moment when you're with a reader who's giving you nothing and you're just like, something, emote, please do something. So that's what I think is so interesting about that disconnect too, of just, oh, I'm just going to read the words and I'll enunciate and maybe I'll use my theater training to, speak from my diaphragm and make sure I enunciate really well. But there's so much to it, right? We're only using 10%, well, we're only hearing 10% of our instrument. We have to use all 100% because we don't get the normal social cues we get with on camera or theater. I can't see someone smile. I can't see the light in somebody's eyes. So I have to sound like I have light in my eyes. I have to sound like I'm warm and comforting or sinister and dastardly or, this is the worst moment of my life without all of this. I'm never going to be a secret agent. I've never kept a secret. Look at this face. Anything I think immediately is just here. So for voice, it's this really, really interesting journey of how do I make those physical choices with the sound of my own voice? How does an eye roll sound? How does a heavy weight on my shoulders sound? That sort of thing. So by doing all of that stuff, by bringing in your acting training to this, right? Cold reading, super important skill for an actor. Improv, super important skill for an actor. Redirections, the ability to think on your feet and give a second take, a third take, often an eighth take, because my favorite note in voiceover is, I like it, do something different. This just kind of hones in on everything you need as an actor. And your job as a voice actor is to breathe life into this text. A lot of times you're working in 2D animation or something like that, right? You're the third dimension. That is a super powerful place to be. And that's not something that I think anyone should take lightly. We're not going to jump on stage and try to be Hamlet first go, probably. With voice acting too, we need some of that training. We need some of that comfort and understanding of not only the artistry, but then all the technical issues that we're now dealing with and just the complete limitation of just our voice. And I took tons of classes. I took so many classes. And that's one of the reasons why I like being a teacher now is just, gosh, I spent so much money on my voiceover education. And I was, an out of work actor living in LA, serving juice to people. I couldn't afford all these classes and I'd put them on credit cards or I'd empty my savings. And it's really, really gratifying to kind of take what I've learned over the past 10 years and just try to condense it for folks.
Yeah, because as you were sharing all that, I was like, oh my gosh, how can you not see the value of a class with
Yeah.
that?
Well, it's always, I just find it so fascinating. And it's not, a judgment or anything. It's just because we're not memorizing, I think people do think there is this ease to it. And sure, like it's awesome that I can just go run in my booth and I don't have to put on pants and I don't have to wear my makeup and I don't have to worry about my lighting. But I do have to worry about all these other aspects though, you know? For every thing I don't have to worry about, there's some other little issue there or some other technicality. There's swings and roundabouts to everything, but man, is it worth the challenge.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so well that's okay, so that just debunks every theory that you can just read off the page and get a job.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
so boring. That's what everyone's going to do. You don't want to be a voice reader, you want to be a voice actor. Everyone else is just going to read the text. You want to make interesting choices.
and do you see that it's 10% easier for someone who has acting training to
Absolutely.
succeed rather than, yeah, somebody who's coming in off the street?
Yeah, and I'm so happy there are so many Facebook groups and online communities now that are kind of popping up to foster people who have an interest in voiceover. But what I'm finding is it's so heavily focused in the technical side of things. I'll work with somebody who's never taken an acting class in their life, but has a fully built like $3,000 booth with all this technical equipment and everything. And that's rad,
Mm.
but you got to know how to do everything too before you make those kinds of investments. And I would also argue you don't need to make those kinds of investments, but
Okay, yeah, that's a perfect segue because I wanted to talk about like technical stuff. So let's say an actor is getting into voiceover, but let's say they book a job, do they need to go to a professional studio to have that to do that recording? Is that something, yeah, that they can totally set up at home?
yeah.
Tell us all things the technical.
So, now we can do everything from home, which is super exciting. You don't need to rent out a booth. You really, really don't. I completely understand the merit in that. And it's so great that we have places we can go to for safety purposes, obviously, right now, but also for the own benefit of your wallet. You can do all of this at home. I've recorded on the road in closets. I just make sure all of my clothes are hung up around me to insulate the sound. I put a sock over my mic to kind of help with the sound and also with my plosives, all those pop noises that are on there. The cheapest thing in the world. I put an athletic sock on a piece of technical equipment. It's so goofy looking, but it works wonders. For me, I just have a designated closet. I'm really lucky that I got to take this from my husband. And I filled it up with sound panels. I have an extra blanket down on the floor. I have a little sound shield around my mic, and I record everything from here. And I'm very fortunate in that I was ahead of the curve. Pre quarantine, this is what I was doing. I've always recorded from home, except for some big bookings. If I go do a video game for somebody, I'm in a game called Blade and Soul. Yeah, that'll go down to like the Mark Grauer studio and get coached and directed and record with somebody in real time. A couple other commercials every now and then have done that. But for the most part, a lot of people want me to work independently anyway, and they're just going to give me notes later. So I've been doing it this way for years. I mean, you can even start out, Erin, with just a box that you line with like foam bedding, any kind of foam paneling in there. That's my first voiceover booth. I lived in a 500 square foot apartment with my now husband, and I'd have to tell him to shut up. I'm recording for Honda as I'm screaming into a recycling bin I lined. But, it sounded great because I insulated it well. You can totally do this on just a shoestring budget. And that's one of the best things about it. You can do it right now from home. You can do it for very little money, ultimately. And it's the work that's not getting canceled. And by having a space in your home, you just open yourself up to so many opportunities.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh, it's so great. And I know that it is one of the few industries that was not affected in entertainment with the
Yeah.
shutdown last year.
It's actually been amazing for the voiceover community. And I know it's rough to find silver linings in everything that's happening right now, but one of the interesting things that's happened and why I think so many people should be pivoting towards voiceover is a lot of live action projects switched over to being podcasts, animated films, this sort of thing. All of a sudden I was reading for Gritty Cops that I would never go in for on camera. 100%. At best, I'm like quirky CSI girl. But on the mic, oh yeah, I can be a gritty cop from Pennsylvania who's just had enough and she's not living up to her father's legacy. Like, that's totally doable. And so now there's so many opportunities just because the entertainment industry obviously does not want to stop, but they're trying to find new ways to create content.
Oh, so great. Actors need stability in some areas of their lives, and to think that they could continue acting just down another road.
Exactly. It's going to open up so many doors for people if you do pursue voice acting. And I know for some people it's not ultimately like the dream role, right? A lot of people want that on-camera persona. They want people to know their face. It's kind of the same way we kind of go about commercials though, right? Maybe we don't want to be an on-camera commercial actor, but do we want that as our day job versus, you know, when I had to go into an office or when I was selling celebrities juice cleanses? Like, no shade to either of those jobs, but that's not where my heart is. I would rather go in my closet, talk about banking loans for a while, and make my rent by just getting to like pretend to be someone's best friend.
I love that. Ah, I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, that leads me to my next question, which I think you sort of kind of already maybe answered, is can you make a living doing voiceover?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's like anything, it's a hustle, right? You can't sit idly by and wait for people to do it for you. And look, this is where I'm going to sound like an old fart. I know there are really cool new things popping up all the time, and I 100% support everyone exploring them. Jumping on, the Clubhouse app and joining those groups, jumping on TikTok and doing those voiceover challenges and things. I never think there's a shortcut to becoming a great actor. It's still work, right? I'm not going to jump on TikTok and start doing a couple of videos and all of a sudden go viral. Maybe I could, that'd be neat. But I also want to work on my craft because it's still acting, right? So you still need to be in class. You need to be treating it like a small business. Most of my voiceover work I do that's steady, it's work that I cultivated within the last 5 years so that I have return clientele. I've made sure that for industrials I do, or for, more corporate spots, that I've cultivated this relationship so that I am the voice of that thing. I've been asked back by Mission Fed for the past 4 years. And again, these are people who I was nice and pleasant to. They liked my audition for something completely different, kept my demo, and then like 4 years later went, hey, Chris, we really liked you in this pharmaceutical ad. We keep pitching you. We finally have this banking group that wants to work with you. Yeah. And that's a job I do every month, and that's my guaranteed rent money job. Mm-hmm. So it just still has that hustle and drive to it. And there's also a lot of interesting avenues in voiceover for making money. You can go the commercial route. You can do video games. You can do animation. This is more of a SAG big time thing, right? If we're wanting those big juicy roles. And like anything in life, a lot of times that now goes to celebrities, but it also has this very tight knit community. Same with doing ADR dubbing. If you want to get in a loop group, those people who dub over people, it's usually a pretty tight knit group, but what a cool skill to have. And that's something people on Netflix are always looking for. If you speak multiple languages, that's a great route for you to go. Dubbing for all those different Netflix shows that they need to do in French and German and everything. There's audiobooks. If you have a lovely soothing voice and you like editing, that's something you can do from home and make some money off of that. You can go pharmaceutical commercials. You can go industrials. I mean, you can be the person who just does the dial 1 for this extension. There's so much stuff out there.
Gosh, that just is like, it just seems so much more versatile. Mm-hmm. Like that you might have a chance of, if you hit, even if you hit 4 out of the 8 or however many, it just with on camera, it's like there's commercials or there's film and TV. Of course, there's industrials and things like that. I mean, but for the most part, it just feels like there's just 2 tracks.
Yeah.
And then there's hosting, I guess, now that I think it, but voiceover.
There is still this limitation though, there's still your physical limitation. Again, I'm not reading for those gritty cops. I'm not going to be a minor like you were, Erin. They'd be like, get out of here, city girl. Go on. But with voiceover, there's so many different things you can do. And your voice is perfect for something. I follow Sarah Sherman on Twitter, and she's a casting associate for Disney for a lot of their stuff. And she one day did this great thread of just like, your voice is perfect for something. You don't have to be somebody who can do these wildly drastic character voices. That's awesome if you can do that. But they're looking for acting, they're looking for artistry, they're looking for perspective, which is one of the easiest ways for you to create different characters. Everyone has a different point of view, everyone speaks to people differently. I'm going to talk to you a different way than I'm going to talk to my mom. You know, I'm going to talk to Rachel differently than I'm going to talk to my boss. There's all these different factors that you can bring to the table. So you're always going to be able to find that kind of voiceover that suits you. I'm not an audiobook girl. I talk about this in class where it's that is not my thing. I don't want to listen to this for 12 hours, frankly. I never thought that this little piccolo was going to get me work, but here we are. But I have a niche for doing medical ads and voicing woodland creatures.
Yeah.
That's my shtick.
Yeah.
Everyone has one.
I love it. Oh, I love it. It's like community driven. All are welcome in voiceover.
Exactly. And the voiceover community, in my experience too, is always so welcoming. I mean, those Facebook groups I've mentioned, I've loved hearing from students about how this online community always supports them. It always makes me feel like what we do here. And everyone I've worked with in voiceover has always just been super kind, just the most gregarious people.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What do you cover in your coaching and in your classes with the studio?
Woo, so much stuff. So in intro, it is just kind of this quick and dirty 4-week course. We go through PSAs, public service announcements, commercials, animation, and video games. A lot of what we talk about in these two is plussing your copy, kind of bringing us out of the uncanny valley and making us humans, connecting with your audience. So you aren't just a reader, you're speaking to a person. With PSAs and commercials, you're establishing trust. We don't want to buy some stuff from some shady person who sounds super creepy and disingenuous, you know? I think the example I used in class last night was like, we were talking about Olay body wash. It was like, no one's going to use the voice and be like, Olay body wash, yeah, you want to come get some? No, that's gross and horrible. It makes you want to take a shower, but not with Olay. So,
yeah.
you know, we have to establish trust with people. When it comes to animation, a lot of times we don't have any of the parameters. We're just given these random lines with no context. So we have to create context. And if you're a nerd like me, you get all D&D about it. It's theater of the mind. Okay, what's happening? How do I feel about this person? How is this happening? All the same stuff we do on camera, but you're doing it line by line with completely different context. So that casting director can see you do 6 lines and get that whole journey of your character. Same thing with video games, and we explore kind of different ones as well. I try to mix it up with, you know, a little bit of grounded military stuff, some really wild bonkers stuff that we throw in there with really big energy, some cutesy little things thrown in there. How you work as a game guide, how you need to kind of drive the player to do things. A lot of these things too in animation and video games, it's just, are you watching these? Are you playing these? No? Okay, well, let's get on YouTube and start participating in this. When you're watching TV, do you get up and fill your coffee when the commercial comes on? Sit your butt back down, watch some commercials. Don't change the radio. Listen to those. I think it's fascinating that actors skip those things because we're trying to do them. You have to be aware of what's going on in the marketplace. Again, it's a small business. With that in mind too, once we move on to advanced VO, this is more about finding your place in the professional world. So we continue exploring all these different avenues. We do some mobile video games to open it up, really exploring delivering 2 drastically different characters, finding those different takes. We move into custom commercials. You walk away from my class with at least 2 custom pieces of audio that you get to have.
So
I will write you some copy. You get to do whatever that you want with that. We talk about promos, how knowing the tone of a network or show is going to determine how you say something. This is a huge hack for your acting career in general. I'm going to act wildly different between Disney Channel and TNT. Those are not going to have the same Chris Carr. One might be a little schmactery. One's going to be more grounded. Same thing when we're doing this with promos and everything. I'm going to describe Sleepy Hollow differently than I'm going to describe Price is Right. We move into medical ads and how that's kind of a gray area for a lot of people. We talk about video games. We talk about animation, finding those custom characters, creating things based off of a drawing, really taking the animation as the inspiration for why you speak a certain way. We do a quick, dirty mocap coverage. It's focused a lot on creature creation. If you have fangs, if you have tusks, how are you going to talk? How does that change how you articulate? How does your physicality alter your voice and everything? And then the coolest thing we do is the last class, you get to pick what kind of audition you want. So in theory, you've been with me for at least 8 weeks, probably 12 if you've gone start to finish. So I know your voice pretty well. You know your voice very well. And you get to say, hey, Chris, I really want to do a sci-fi video game villain audition. Rad, let me write that up for you. And then we're going to go through that. You're going to send me a cover letter as if you're applying to me as your agent. You're going to send me your resume. And I'm going to review all of that for you too, so we can make sure when you do submit to agents, and we're going to kind of talk about how to go about that slightly, you look like a pro. It's a lot.
So basically, if you want to get into voiceover, duh, yeah, it's
Come hang out with me.
Yeah, it's just clear that you love what you do. You don't have to put on the passion or to try to convince anyone that you, well, one, you've got the knowledge, but just two, that you love it. But three, being a teacher is a completely different thing, because being able to break something down, listen, watch, okay, this is what we need to tweak, communicate that. And I've been in your classes and I know how good you are at that.
Oh,
So
that's my favorite part. I love doing all the redirects and everything. It's so fun.
It's so fun. So
I love stuff so much. This is my favorite thing to geek out about. And you know, thank goodness I teach, because people got really bored at dinner parties with me being like, so you know what's interesting?
yeah, now you have like an audience that is like literally yours for 2 hours, whether they like
They
it or
want
not.
to be there instead of feeling like they're held hostage because like we're all watching the Oscars together. And I'm like, you know what actually is a fantastic film with wonderful acting.
So it's perfect. And I always love to end all these interviews with this question, because it's clear that you love what you do. But why do you love what you do?
I think I love voiceover the most. There's all those little things we talked about, right? Of just the ease, the going to work in my pajamas, the not worrying about all this, the work-life balance that it kind of gives me. I have a lot more life than work because I can set my hours and all this stuff. But ultimately, it's because there are so few limitations. I get to show up and be anything I want to be. I can show up and be a cat. I can be a kid. It's really, really this moment of getting to connect with that, 6-year-old version of me who I'm always striving to be, who had no inhibitions and just really didn't give an F about anything. I'm trying so hard not to swear. Everyone in the alumni is probably like, she's doing great. She would have sworn. But it's so freeing. It's so great. And we're told constantly in life to behave and to be quieter and to not be, I'm going to make this a little gendered, and I'm sorry. For those of us who identify as women, a lot of times we're told to not be big and bold and brassy and loud.
Yeah.
And I don't have another speed. And so the fact that I can celebrate those aspects of me, I can celebrate how bombastic I am as a human being and as an artist, is really, really gratifying.
So basically you get to be yourself and get paid for it. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. It's great. And then every now and then, I'm a zombie.
I love this. How can we connect with you?
Oh my gosh, you can take one of my classes at E.E.B, which would be great. You can follow me on social media. I'm at actor Chris Carr. I think on all the things, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on Clubhouse now. I don't understand it, but I'll get there one day. Yeah. And then you can always just go to my website, www.chris-carr.com, and we can connect about personal coaching or demo work or any other questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you. This was brilliant.
Thanks, Erin.